Қымбатты достар, бүгін бізде күшті жаңалық. Біз жаңа студияда өзіміздің подкасттың екінші сезонын, екінші маусымын бастап жатырмыз. Сондықтан бізді құттықтап астымызға комментарийларға тілектеріңізді қалдыруға болады.
Бүгін бізде жаңа сезон, жаңа кезең және жаңа қонағымыз. Сондықтан бұл жаңа қонағымыз Ғалым Иманбаев. Бізде көбіне осы Америкада өскеннен кейін ағылшын тілінде көп сөйлейді. Сондықтан ағылшын тіліне көшеміз. Сондықтан субтитрді оқып отырасыздар бәрін қазақша, және сұрақтарыңыз болса жазыңыздар. Бәріміз жауап беруге қуаныштымыз. Ал енді бәрін қазақша тыңдайық.
Ағылшынша тыңдайық. Ғалымды біз өте көп күттік. Ол бізге келіскеніне үлкен рахмет. Ғалым біздің қазақ халқының мақтанышы деп айтуға да болады. Кішкентайынан Қазақстанда туып, 8 жасына шейін Қазақстанда өсіп, содан кейін Америкаға көшіп кеткен. Қазір неліктен мақтаныш екенін түсінесіздер, сондықтан іске сәт барлығыңызға да.
Іске сәт, иә. So, Salim Ғалым. Yeah, welcome to our podcast, Zuckerberg'тің көршілері, which means Zuckerberg's neighbors. It's just a Kazakh who lives nearby in the Bay Area. So, yeah, overall, thanks for joining us. And we're so honored to share your story with us today. It's a long and beautiful journey. And if I was so worried to mess up or maybe I could forget some good points when I introduce yourself. So could you do it for us? Like, could you introduce yourself shortly, maybe starting from the today till to back to the like your childhood or somehow?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for having me. And again, for the audience, I apologize. I don't know Kazakh very well, so it's easier to be in English. And yeah, so thank you for having me. It's great to see this podcast grow and reach the audience. So a little bit on myself. So Ғалым Иманбаев, I was born in Kazakhstan. I was born in Almaty. I was there until I was about 8 years old. And then circumstances were such that we had to move to the United States. And so I grew up in Oregon. From 8 until 18. That was a very big transition for our family, and I'm happy to elaborate more on that. And ultimately, I then went to Stanford for undergrad. Again, thanks to my parents and the values that they instilled, and I'm happy to elaborate on that as well. And I did my undergrad at Stanford, majored in economics, minored in human biology. I then worked in healthcare venture and private equity for a few years, and that was a really good learning experience. I then went back to school and did my medical degree and my business school degree at Stanford. So in total, almost 10 years, but I almost say, you know, I do enjoy school a lot.
And you do enjoy Stanford especially, right?
I enjoy Stanford, but particularly it's a fun place, it's an exciting place, and we can get into some of those things as well. But then finally I had to get a job. My wife and my family were like, all right, can you stop studying and can you actually get to work? So I had the choice to be either a practicing physician, you know, go into the hospital, or to continue this dual path that I was taking, which was both medicine and business. And I realized that at that time, being in Silicon Valley, my passion was very much oriented towards innovation and this large market of medicine. And so that pulled me back into the investing side, and I continue as a partner now at Lightspeed Venture Partners, which is one of the leading global venture capital firms, and we can spend time on that as well. But if it's helpful, of course, would love to elaborate on the journey to it, because I think that's really, it's not the destination, but the journey that matters.
Yeah, that is so impressive, because when I heard that you did the MD and the MBA at the Stanford at the same time, I was like so shocked, because for some people and for us, at least for the average people, at least to do some degree is already hard at Stanford. So you're so impressive.
No. It's, again, thanks goes to Allah and to my parents, of course. Without that, I'm just trying to execute. That's it.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah. Why doctor? Why becoming a physician? Why MD?
Yeah, so you know, it's funny, when I was growing up in Kazakhstan, I lived on I lived on Al-Farabi. I forget the cross section, but we lived very close to kind of the university there. And,
What university?
it was I think it was like the National Economics University or something like that. I need to.
I'm not very familiar with Almaty, so.
But anyway, my parents will know.
Yeah.
But it was, I honestly enjoyed it so much growing up in Kazakhstan from, age probably 4 until 8, until I left. I would leave in the morning, go play outside for an entire day and then come home, go for lunch a little bit and then come home for the evening. So I spent all the days outside. And so I remember I got into medicine for some reason because my mom and my father bought a lot of these like bintiki, like a little, these like little
Tapes.
not
Tapes.
tapes, these basically band-aids kind of things, right?
yeah.
Like bandages, cloth bandages. And I always had them in my pocket. And whenever I'd be outside, you know how kids always get in trouble. And
You
they
would
fall
just
around.
treat them.
I would be the first to come in. Okay, what is it?
Okay.
They like it or not, just bandage it up. And I don't know, I just really enjoyed that. And that carried over then obviously in the United States. But the origin story, I think, kind of started from there.
Okay.
Wow. It starts from the childhood, right? Oh, wow. What is your early memory about your childhood back in Kazakhstan?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing, and you'll hear this theme, I think, throughout, is my family were, very, very close, very tight. And family relations.
You mean extended family?
Extended family. So we had cousins on both
Yeah.
sides of the family. Every other week, someone's birthday, right? It's
Yeah.
somebody, right? And so we had such a tight-knit community that, it was my cousins, it was from the father's side, from my mother's side. We stayed very close. And I think my memories of just being outside in our kind of like, old Soviet blocks were this like central little courtyard. I just spent so much time there.
Dvor.
Dvor. Yeah, these dvor, I mean, like I would just, I now have a daughter, she's 4 years old, and when she asks me every night stories.
Yeah.
And my stories are always about my childhood in Kazakhstan. Funny, American childhood, pretty boring.
It's
We'll
not
get to that.
exotic, right?
It's not exotic. In Kazakhstan, we had all sorts of fun stories, So I think those were one set. And then the other set is I did follow my father through some of his trips as he was doing healthcare reform. So as he was doing healthcare reform, I also saw kind of how all the work and the projects he was doing were really beginning to help people primarily in rural Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
And so when I would go and my father would send my older brother and I to rural Kazakhstan for the summers, seeing the auls and being around that environment. Unfortunately, I didn't learn enough Kazakh as I should have. I was an asphalt Kazakh, as they say, for that time. But that I think instilled in me a very deep sense of identity, which then we tried to preserve as much as we could,
Which region or which rural area have you visited back in?
So primarily Semey is where my father's from.
Your father. So Semey, Abay, Akhswat. Well, you don't remember the
I
names of the...
don't quite remember.
Okay.
But I would follow on these trips. But we also went to some really even more rural place. I remember going to the mountains where the hot springs were. We would go on these trips, and yeah, my parents would just leave us there, and we'd spend there for a summer.
With grandparents?
Actually, in that case, it was almost like other family. Grandparents were actively working at that time, so they were in the cities.
Okay.
Sometimes with grandparents, but mostly, just other family.
You mentioned in the other podcast that your father helped people, especially in the rural area, to recover from the tuberculosis and other illness.
There was, I think, a period of time where the healthcare infrastructure in Kazakhstan was beginning to fail. After years of, being under the Soviet yoke, it began to fail. And my father was appointed by the powers that be at that time to help bring kind of some of the organization back in place. And so one of his most primary, I remember, roles was to make sure that it wasn't just the cities that got taken care of. At that time, I don't know. I don't know the history, but I imagine at least a third, if not more than half the population was probably living in rural Kazakhstan. So he wanted to make sure those people got taken care of as much.
Yeah, I just remember, sorry for interrupting. There was like such rare and horrible diseases in my childhood in 90s in Kazakhstan. I lived in like a very rural area. I remember my parents telling us that there is tsinga. Do you know this? I don't know it's in English. When there is no vitamin C, no veggies.
Scurvy.
I don't know, their teeth fell out.
Scurvy. That's it.
I mean,
teeth? Oh,
usually,
that's crazy.
like sailors, like but in the ocean, they might have.
In English it's called scurvy.
Scurvy. Yeah, you can translate it.
Can you imagine, like kids in our aul having this scurvy because there was no food, no nutrition food.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So him doing that in one way, that was another part of my kind of thinking of, not just the bintiki outside in the dvor, but it was actually a lot of it also was seeing how some of the work he did, and all of a sudden these awuls and people would just, they would go from crying to happy. And I was like, what did that? I was a little kid, so I didn't know. But he came, people became happy. What happened? I was like, and then my father would explain, well, here's what we did. We brought this kind of medicine. We brought this. Now it's funny, fast forward to now I'm doing venture capital investments in technology. And I say this to a lot of my American colleagues. In the United States, only in 2009 did American hospitals get electronic medical records. Whereas my father in 1995 or 6 was procuring software, I think from Oracle or IBM, into Kazakh core hospitals. So I tell some of my American colleagues, Kazakhstan was 15 years ahead of you, in terms of digitizing this industry. So anyway, these things all inspired me a lot.
Yeah, that explains a lot why Ғалым is interested in medicine. And the other side, you're also interested in economics and business. So where does that start from?
Yes.
So I think one, just intellectually, I was very stimulated by that. I also think that, very quickly I realized if I am a doctor only, I can take one patient, or maybe I can take 10 patients per day. You multiply that out, I'll take care of maybe a few tens of thousands, maybe 100,000 people in my career. And I think, well, that is good, and a lot of people should do that. But again, I think seeing my father's work and starting to being exposed to economics in the United States at Stanford, I started to realize, wait a second, you could have a lot broader impact if you take a technical expertise, whether it could be engineering, in this case, medicine, take a technical expertise and then think of it through a very systems approach. And economics gave me that systems approach. How can you take a technical expertise and expand impact? And ultimately, I think impact is what Silicon Valley teaches you. You try to innovate to have much broader impact than kind of step by step.
Yeah, that.
Do you think without this technical expertise, you would not be that good, or in what you're doing right now? Like without this medicine?
I think it's possible. There are too many exceptions to say that it's not. So there are absolutely people that come purely from business backgrounds that become really good investors, or that become really good investors in areas that are pretty technical. In fact, I'll say in my field, there are some investors who are former journalists who then became investors because they became. Everyone, depending on your industry, of course, it depends. But in the field of investing, you can excel through different superpowers. You can have a superpower of a connector, superpower of analytical thinker, superpower of talent identifier. There's different superpowers, and some people can do well in one.
What is your superpower?
Oh gosh. I think in investing in the American style of Silicon Valley style investing, which is very different than even New York style investing, really, it's that different. I think my strengths primarily, I would say, lie in, people nurturing. When you identify a founder and how you can take someone from a 1x person to a 10x person, I think I can find ways to kind of take that kernel and expand it. Oftentimes in my industry, that involves a lot of strategic thinking in terms of like, hey, what are the right partnerships, distribution channels that the founder might not think of, and just like amplify their inner talent. I think that's one of the things that gives me a lot of energy, is identifying someone kind of raw and saying like, okay, they have extreme talents here. Let's make sure their weaknesses don't become liabilities, et cetera, et cetera.
That's really cool. So can you please explain to us and to our audience who is maybe very far from the investing American market or Silicon Valley ideas? So just in simple words, what your company does and what,
especially how it works in the Bay Area and California, because back in Kazakhstan, people might not get exactly what's venture capitalist does and how do they invest in their like early stage startups, what's the different stages. So overall, if you also just could explain it.
Yeah, I think, investing as a function is very wide, right? Most people, I would imagine, and forgive me if I'm making the wrong assumptions, but I would assume many people in Kazakhstan, when they think of investing, is probably project financing. They're like, hey, I want to build this factory, or hey, I want to build this set of hospitals. I'm going to take out this loan from a bank, finance it, etc. That's probably the majority. That's one. Then you take one step kind of down, one step upstream from that. So you move kind of left in the stream of things in terms of risk. Then you look at private equity. Again, probably something people generally familiar about in Kazakhstan. And an investment fund goes and buys out, just completely buys a company, transforms it, grows it, sells it, right? So you buy it at price this, you sell it at this price after you've worked on it for a while. That is usually you take full control of a company. That's why I see sometimes news from Kazakhstan. This company this group bought this whole company. That's buyout of where you get full control. Then you go, as you keep going more upstream, then you go into growth investing and venture capital. Oftentimes, at the core, venture is you take an idea that's pretty early stage. It has a lot more risk. And you do not buy out companies. You own a minority. You find a founder and you buy a small share of the company, and you hope that this essentially venture company can grow at a scale that is almost unnatural. That's important thing. Not every business and not even every sector should have venture capital investments. Some sectors like venture capital doesn't make sense because venture capital investors like me, when I invest into a company, my expectation of the company is not a linear growth. 1 year they make 2 million, the next year they make 2 million, 3 million and 4. No, if you have that kind of growth and you have visibility, go ahead and get a bank. You don't have to give up your ownership of your company.
It should be very risky.
It should be risky, but the risk, I would view it. The risk is a symptom, is a consequence of the primary thing. So the main thing is it needs to be ambitious. It needs to be audacious. It needs to be large, and that is what makes it risky. It shouldn't be like those, which is funny. What you mentioned is actually very interesting. In Europe and a lot of other parts of the world, venture capital is called risk investing. That's its name.
That's a good name.
It
explains a lot.
But in the United States, we don't call it risk investing. We call it venture investing. What's the definition of venture? Venture is the second word of adventure. Adventure. We're going on an adventure. You see the mindset? The American mindset of venture investing is we're going to go on an adventure. It's high risk, but if we make it, it's going to be big. Whereas European mind thinking, it's risk-based investing. It's just so you're looking at it from a different
negative.
angle.
Like you haven't started yet, but it's risky.
Already worried.
Right. So I hope that gives a little bit of a sense of just like mentality-wise of what venture capital is.
And your company does like investing in lots of
sectors. We do a lot of sectors.
You are responsible for the healthcare, medicine stuff.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Yeah, you're a partner. And to become a partner, I think you have to work everything off.
It's a lot, yes.
Yeah. Was it hard or? You're so young and you're so accomplished. I mean, it's like, what?
How is it possible?
Yeah, how is it possible?
How is it possible?
Look, I mean, again, it's all, I give thanks to Allah and my family. And I think that's important, something to think about. Like, it's interesting. I'll tell you, when we had to come to the United States, and again, circumstances were such that we had to come quickly. And I remember we came with just the backpacks on our backs. My mom, and you know what my mom prioritized, put into those backpacks? 2 sets of books. One was a Quran, and the other was math books. That's it. She like we couldn't take anything. It's like, what is the most important thing we need to succeed when we're starting in this new land?
Faith.
We need faith, values, and we need education. That's the only thing that's going to keep us alive here, right? And look, it was not easy. Like my parents, they did not know very much English.
Yes.
And it was they were separated from their family, their parents, their brothers and sisters, and it was not easy for them. And they had two children. My older brother was 11, I was 8, and my little brother was my mom was 6 months pregnant when she came.
He was born here.
He was born here. My mom thought, oh man, so she went through so much stress. She thought maybe little poor Daniel was going to come out unhealthy. Alhamdulillah, he graduated Stanford. He's good. But like we were, I think when they came, it was the values, and in our case, interestingly, when we came to the United States, we became stronger Muslims than we were in Kazakhstan. We just became more practicing. And maybe it was because we came into Oregon, which was funny because just my father had a friend, but Oregon is like 90% white.
Yes.
My high school was like 95% white.
So you're one Asian kid?
Yeah, there's a couple other Asian kids, like Korean, Chinese or something, but like we were the only Kazakhs there. And I think when you have under stress, the response sometimes can either be like buckle and just try to fit in.
Yes.
But I think my parents both instilled a very deep sense of Kazakh identity for us. It was when you go into our house, inshallah, one of these days you guys come visit us in Oregon, you'll see and you immediately see Kazakh decorations, big history of our people.
So they were proud to be Kazakh. They didn't want to lose this identity.
Yes, and so they instilled that in us. I mean, every night, like my older brother is probably one of the best like amateur historians of Kazakh history. He's just that good. And so he and my father would just talk about our history, the Mongol history, the Golden Horde, all of these, and that would always be in our minds. And then obviously with faith, my mom did such a good job. She got us coming to Sunday schools for Quranic study schools. So we got exposed, and we were like I think we were the only Kazakh family in all of Oregon. This was the late 90s. I mean,
yeah, I can't imagine.
So, but even in that state of like difficulty, both financial and language, our house was also the other kind of Kazakh cultural value we maintained is just hospitality. Our house is open. So we since we obviously knew Russian, we got along with the Russian speaking community. Mm-hmm. Because we're Muslim, we got along with the Muslim kind of community, like Pakistanis and everything like that. And then obviously even with some of the local kind of Mormon and Christian communities, we just it became, and they made us feel integrated while still maintaining that identity. And I think that's what really helped. We felt, at least both my father and my mother told us, Ғалым, Anwar, Danyar, like you are not just Ғалым, Anwar, Danyar. You are representatives of your people here. And if you're the first one, you're literally the first impression. And they say first impression matters.
Thanks God. We have this impression, right?
So they said like you need to be impression not just by moral character first. You have to be good people, honest, etc. As best as you can. Look, we had our bad behavior, so I'm not saying we're perfect. No, we had enough times where my mom would give us a good enough. Oh yes. We got our fair share, probably more than most. But
that's why it turned out like 2 of you graduated, maybe 3 of you graduated from Stanford.
I think that, so that was that, and then the other thing was like educate, like you are representatives by moral conduct, you are representatives by education. Conduct, and then use that for something. Don't just like be happy and by yourself. So we maintain, even throughout those years, we maintained connections with our family in Kazakhstan. Now last year we all met together in Turkey, like a big family reunion. So that kind of family relationships are very, very important for us.
Oh, that's so cool. You already answered to the several questions that I had already over here. What was it like growing up in like Kazakh American, about your identity, and how's your family story of migration shaped your values and ambitions? And I'm getting all the responses already.
I want to ask one question about this. Yeah. So I haven't lived in other states in the United States very much. So I know only California, and Bay Area. It's like a very diverse, very immigrant community. But in Oregon, have you had any? I mean, I don't know. How do I say it correctly? Racial discrimination or some a negative stuff from?
What's interesting is, I think they couldn't really put me down. They're like, who is they? They couldn't identify as me. We didn't fit a bill.
You're not Chinese.
Yeah, they're like, well, some people are like, oh, it looks kind of Asian, so maybe
Yeah.
Chinese. But then very quickly they're like, no, this guy is definitely, these people are not Chinese. So like we couldn't quite fit. And then I think because my brothers and I, we really owned our Kazakh identity. So each of us ran for office
Oh.
in high school. Anwar and I, and I forget what roles, we vice president was Danyar president. We all got elected. But funny enough, what we did, we focused on our identity. We said, hey, my speech was about like Genghis Khan and that I will, push forward the agenda with that strength. It's
Oh my
funny,
God.
it's like the thing is like I think in America there is oftentimes they say melting pot or salad, right? Like you can either dissolve into it or you can like be a salad. So you are a tomato. You're in the salad, but you're a tomato, or you're something, right? And we chose to be, we have our identity, and it actually worked for us. So I think I did not feel much at all. Look, when Borat came out in high
Yes.
school.
How did you okay, wait, tell us this experience. Was it awful?
So initially my friends came to like, Galym, there's a movie about Kazakhstan. And I'm like, oh, wow, awesome. And then at first I think, oh, it's some kind of indie movie, some like independent in a small theater. They're like, no, Galym, it's in the major theaters. And I was like,
Wow.
a movie about Kazakhstan in the major theaters? This
Something
is
fishy.
something fishy. Eventually, I'm like, oh, I see what this is. And there was in my class, there was one guy who was kind of like a class clown, but he was class clown to everybody. But so he wasn't a bully or anything. It's honestly a good guy. We became friends after. But he was like, Galym, there's some. Yeah, he said something mean, not to me, but something mean particularly about, he said something about like, if I had a sister, something. Thing is, I don't even have a sister.
Yeah.
And that's a really bad movie. I don't even want to refer to it. But he said something, and I'm like, I don't even have a sister, but I'm going to imagine that I have a sister, and what would I do in the situation? And my emotions took the better of me, and I told him, hey, come on over. He walked up to me. He had his hands in his pockets like this. And I said, hey, come on. And he's like, yeah, what's going on? He thinks I'm just still having fun. And I said, I want to whisper something in your ear. And he's like, okay. He had his hands in his pockets, leans over, and I was irresistible. So I went and just got him. But the moment that happened, I said, oh no.
Oh.
Like, I could get suspended.
Yes.
Immediately blood rushing, everything. I was like, I could get suspended. Things could like here I did all this work and now I might not be able to get to college because people are so strict.
Your Genghis Khan blood just ruined everything.
Took over.
But I think then thankfully the teacher actually stepped up for me. He's like, hey, he was okay, all good. So it was all fine. But honestly, generally it was all good. But sometimes you have to step up for yourself, and I think we did that. So yeah.
How often do you visit Kazakhstan?
So
in these days?
Fortunately, right now we haven't had the chance to go back to some some of the issues with the past. But I would say, inshallah, I'm excited to visit very soon. And so thankfully now all of us are citizens, and it makes it a little bit easier. And again, we stay very close with our family. That oftentimes they prefer to come to the United States, because it's more fun for them.
Yeah.
But as they say, Otan ıslık.
Yes, Otan da ıslık.
And I just have that in my head. So I'm like, I don't care. It's been so long. That is my homeland, and I will go back at some point. And I want to see the graveyards of my grandparents.
And having a daughter.
And having my daughter needs to see that. She needs to feel it.
Yes.
And so,
yeah, that's
inshallah,
great.
it happen.
You said that you've all become citizens. So one very шаблонный question. Do you feel more American?
Oh no! Do I feel more? No,
Are you an American or a Kazakh? I know.
You wanna divide his dual identity too? Like,
I don't want to divide. If you don't want to answer, I'll just cut this from.
No.
Okay, fine.
No, I think. Look, I mean, culturally and the values, I think the foundation is Kazakh. The foundation, things of like. When I talk to my parents, I don't say you in American, say вы, right? Like This is the difference. When I think about, kind of blood relations, in America, 18, get out of the house. I don't like that value. But the thing is, so I think the foundation of my identity obviously comes from Kazakhstan. It comes from the culture. And I think that's instilled as I grew up. At the same time, I absolutely took on what I hope are positive values of the United States. And what are those values?
Yes.
One, I would say just meritocracy. Meritocracy is what built the majority of this success. You will be rewarded for what you give. My favorite saying from one of my CEOs that I backed in the past. He says, "Galym, here's the motto: effort is recognized, results are rewarded." Effort recognized, good job, but results are rewarded. That mentality in the United States is what gives opportunity for me, little boy from Kazakhstan, a shot to succeed. If you show, you will be rewarded if you demonstrate that. I worry that unfortunately in Kazakhstan, you might show, you won't get rewarded. Someone doesn't show and will get.
Yes.
And that's not good. And I will take that American identity, that American value, and hold it. And I will say that lack of meritocracy often in Kazakhstan is not a Kazakh feature. We should not view it like that. It somehow got hijacked. I believe it is a common value of humanity.
Yes.
We need to just reinstill it back. It will happen, and I see good examples now, so I'm very hopeful. But that's one American value. I think the other American value that I find is the giving back, just generosity on another level. Most of the people that give, the people that succeed in the United States, you look at the names of the universities.
Yes.
You think these universities were built by themselves? They were built by people who succeeded and then gave back. And I think that is a very uniquely American strength that I hope, inshallah, in Kazakhstan and other parts of the world, we do that again, right? And so Kazakh Foundation, American values,
yes.
And of course I would say stержень, or the backbone is my faith, Islam. It has to be. And the good thing in America, you can choose your faith, and so I like to say I'm Kazakh American Muslim. It's all three. It has to be.
So
and they don't, and there's no. I don't think there's a false dichotomy.
It's really interesting to talk to you, Galym. I mean, whatever topic we choose, you just go and just like Chinggis Khan forward. So I imagine that until you're 20 or 18-year-old, you grew up not seeing any other Kazakhs other than your family. And when you maybe came to Stanford, to Bay Area too, maybe you got introduced to other Kazakh people, Kazakh youth. So what was the strangest thing you saw in us that you're not accustomed to? I mean, it's a very Kazakh thing, but you didn't know that was
the strangest thing?
Or surprising.
I
don't know, exciting. Anything that stood out.
So
or nothing was you were just you just blended
no, there was definitely surprises.
Okay.
There was definitely some surprise. So one surprise was, you're right. Until I came to Stanford, I did not see a group more than what's here in this room right now. I mean, just a few more. I was wow. Yeah. So I never saw a Kazakh that I didn't plan to meet until that point. Everyone I said I planned, because that's the only way. Right? And so when I graduated, at Stanford I saw a few, but it still wasn't a lot. I remember I graduated, one of my cousins invited me to a party in LA or San Diego.
Okay.
And he was it was a Kazakhstan party, a bunch of Kazakhs. I'm like, whoa, cool. And I'd go there, and it's a raging party, and everyone's dancing and everything like this. And I don't know, I think because I've been grown up by my parents where values are become so, I would say
alcohol.
There was a lot of alcohol, but it just felt like I was so excited to discuss a lot of things, but there was no time to discuss. It was just loud music. So I was like, okay, maybe they're no different than my other American friends. That was a little thing. But then the other thing I think is when I met some other Kazakhs there was one guy who was like, when I tried it, I was like so excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, can I spend time with you on this? And 95% of Kazakhs did great. Welcome me, this. I really felt hugged. But there, unfortunately, were some that were like, I remember one guy, he said, Ғалым, like, he said this in Russian, but he basically said, like, Ғалым, you, like, new volky, like, werewolves, and you're a wolf too. I was like, oh, nice, we're the same species. He's like, but we are wolves from like a different tribe, and your howl sounds very different.
So he divided to the tribes.
No, not even tribes. Just like me, serpent. I was like, we didn't even talk. I know Naiman and all that stuff. No, he didn't talk about that. It was just like he was like, whoa, you're just like so different in the way you speak and this and that. So that was a little bit unfortunate, but again, most people are very welcoming.
Why I am so interested in that? Because we have 2 sons. What kind of advice can you give me as parent? Or what should I do?
I will connect you to my mom. You should ask her.
Okay.
You should ask her.
Okay.
She should. Maybe you have her on this podcast at some point for all the mothers who want their children in the United States. But I would say, I think a part of it, certain traditions, right? Like, so certain traditions, like when, or even in anything we did, we kind of infused it. We took piano classes as we were growing up here in the United States. We did it with some Russian-speaking community person, but my mom said, hey, can you find some Kazakh songs? So instead of just playing this, we played Kazakh songs.
Okay.
Right? And it was just like a little bit of there, but I wouldn't say you don't need to fight American influence because again, it's not negative.
Yes.
There's a lot of it that's positive.
Yes.
And it's as long as you kind of maintain, I think you'll be in good shape. I wouldn't worry about it too much.
Okay.
Yeah. Even a lot of my friends who are young parents, they're talking with their kids in Kazakh, and the kids only knows maybe a little bit of English and Kazakh, and whenever they're visiting Kazakhstan during the summertime, the kids are quite confused because everyone is speaking in Russian over there.
Yeah.
So like kids are like isolated.
Yeah. I think, the one thing I would say, a lot of my cousins are very highly educated. They speak English, so they just for them it's more fun to speak with my daughter in English. Like, hey, no, from you, of all people, you should please teach them. Please speak to them.
Right?
But I think that it's an opportunity for us, the ones that live here in the United States. I am looking for like a really good way to get the language first for myself. I feel embarrassed, not knowing, but I should. But then obviously for the next generation, we have to do it. Otherwise, it'll just fade.
I want to return back to your work,
Yes.
Lightspeed Ventures, right? How do I call it? Lightspeed Venture Partners. Yeah. So you started telling us that you should work hard to get successful and everything, and that you invest money in healthcare, medicine-related startups.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell us what amount of money we're talking about? How deep is your pocket at Lightspeed, and how many companies have you invested already?
Yeah.
Are you seeing any outcomes or good results or anything? Just talk about it.
Absolutely, yeah. So I'll tell you, Lightspeed Venture Partners is a very big fund. It's one of the largest funds in the United States and globally in venture capital. Personally, myself, I've been involved in the deal teams. We've deployed over 500 million in the last just few years.
So you invested $500 million.
Yeah, across several investments, but the checks per investment can range. It goes anything from the smallest I think I've done has been 2 to 3 million, and the largest has been over 100 million. So, and just for one investment at a time. And what that gives you a sense is, it also gives you a sense of stage. There are some venture capital firms that just focus on the very early stage. They're like early stage, someone has an idea, boom, give them money, and so you don't need a lot of capital. But I work at a fund where we are multi-stage. We invest across early stage, middle stage, growth stage, even pre-IPO, and sometimes even public companies that are, public stocks. So that gives us a lot of range. It's actually one of the things that I most enjoy about Lightspeed, is because for different markets, the risk reward is better at early stage. Other different markets is better for later stage.
So if someone in our audience, maybe they're in the Bay Area, maybe in Kazakhstan, it's other parts of the world, they happen to have startups in healthcare. So what kind of how they should present themselves, or what should they do to get your attention as an investor?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I think if it's true, if it's someone from Kazakhstan, my doors are open. Like, I think that's important. We need to do that, and and I think we need to even start kind of a little group. There's a few other Kazakh
I know some of them.
founders in healthcare. Very smart guys. They're learning extremely quickly. And I think one thing that I'm very excited about Kazakh entrepreneurship is that I was worried about this originally, but actually I'm now very relieved. I was initially worried. I was like, man, our people are going to need a generation or two to get good, or like to really understand this. We'll need to go through like a decade of learning, a decade of maturation, and then a decade of like real performance. So it's like thinking in like that form. Because if you look at summary examples, like if you look at Israel as a startup, engine, or you look at some of the other countries, even Colombia in South America, you look at some of these and be like, it took them time. It didn't come overnight. It started with people working at Google. It started people with working this. They understand know-how of what good looks like. They take that and they say, okay, I think I'm ready to try something. That takes time. What I'm finding is I think the Kazakh entrepreneurs are learning at a faster rate because we don't have to go through the baggage of the past. I find that they are, they are adopting technologies quicker. And the biggest thing, I think the number one trait of Kazakh entrepreneurs that I find that is like really, it's our superpower right now. We'll need to add others, otherwise it's not alone. Alone, it's not enough, but it is a super right now. I think it's fearlessness.
Okay.
It might be driven by
Genghis Khan blood.
It might be Genghis Khan blood. It might be naivete a little bit. It might be naive. We just don't know what we're going into.
Yes.
But it's okay. Even if it's naive and not knowing, that fearlessness is like one of the core pieces necessary to start the engine going. And so there will be some things that don't work and this. But the good thing is failures of entrepreneurship in America, particularly in Silicon Valley, are badges of honor. They are, you wear them as a badge. Say, I tried, I did, it didn't work. In most other parts of the world, you're like, ooh, stay away from this guy.
Yes.
In here, it's like, oh, tell me why it didn't work. What did you try? Oh, you did this? Oh, you had this experience? Well, now you know more than a lot of people. You want to come join my startup?
Oh my gosh.
Or if I'm an investor, I look, okay, you've gone through a lot more lessons than this person. I'm going to give you another
You are smarter and more experienced.
more experience. And I think that mentality takes time and culture and examples. Here in Silicon Valley, we now have 60 years, right? 4 or 5 generations of basically examples where you passed on someone, the next one did great. It's a multi-shot game. If you take my economics background, right? If you look at game theory, you cannot view it as like, oh, you try one time, you fail, you're done. Multi-shot. You get multiple offers.
In Kazakhstan, we have pristine nothing. We don't have any background like in capital market, right? That's why you say that is our advantage. You said like our past helping us. Like we don't have any past in
There's no
finance.
baggage.
No.
Yeah. I mean, part of it, I think, is the baggage. I think part of it is also this next generation of technologies. I know we talk about AI, but this next generation of technologies, kind of like the .com, it levels up the playing field. Someone from Kazakhstan that can learn pretty quickly is not that far behind another guy here who's been experienced. When these major shifts in technology happen, .com, cloud, now AI, there will be lots of industries that will lag behind. And that means when in big changes is when you can overcome. Yeah, we say this thing in the United States. It's a kind of a phrase. You say, you don't overtake people on straightaways. You overtake them on the curves. We're talking about a racing track. You don't overtake someone
right now
on
it's
straight.
curve.
Because if you're straight, the American car is going to go faster.
Yes.
But on the curves, when things are changing, the big company won't change as fast. And you can overtake, and that's your opportunity to get ahead. Right? And so venture capital, at the core of it, is predicting these curves.
Okay.
And backing the people right before they happen.
That's so
Wow.
beautiful.
It is. It's a big analysis of everything, what's happening around that area. But how do you identify the moonshots in biotech ideas, companies, startups?
So they're fearless one,
Yeah.
also ambitious, right?
Ambitious,
Yeah.
yes, and learn fast.
Ah.
But in terms of your question of how you identify moonshots, I mean, I actually feel like moonshots aren't necessarily that difficult to imagine. Like to imagine, it's who's going to succeed in them. Like the moonshot of, I would say like an AI doctor. That's a moonshot, right? People can already imagine that. Or other moonshot ideas of SpaceX. Moonshot idea. Go, take a rocket there and take it back. Or electric car, Tesla. There are several moonshot ideas that other people thought, yeah, electrical vehicles, that definitely makes sense. People thought about that in the 80s.
Yeah.
But then what is the founder and what is their strategy? What set of technologies and capital you can pull together to go ahead and give you the best advantage to win? And so I think as the astute investors have to look at that. It's not just vision is cheap. Talk is cheap, right? It's like you have to marry that with, can this person hire the best people, right? Like talent is important. Can this person, he or she attract the right capital? And then can they actually execute on a clock speed that's just much, much faster?
I see.
If you're 9 to 5, you'll stay like the rest. So moonshot ideas aren't difficult to think about. It's how do you present a plan that you can actually achieve it. And moonshot ideas also take a lot of capital.
I see.
Right? Yeah.
So you're saying that it mostly doesn't depend on the ideas first, but on the founders of the company, right? Who's coming to you and asking the investments.
Yeah. Oftentimes they have a clear vision of like a multi-act play. Act 1, we're going to do this. If we do this well, it opens up the opportunity to do Act 2. If we do Act 2, we start to activate network effects or some kind of flywheel, some kind of virality that enables only us to achieve Act 3. No one can catch up because they haven't done Act 2. You see? And then of course you have to go to every little detail. And if you see that and you understand, and it's our job as venture capitalists to kind of dream the dream, like imagine it, go with the founder to dream, but also ask all the right questions to make sure we're not. And look, at the end of the day, the other thing to keep in mind for folks, if they're interested in venture capital, it is an investment style that abides by the power law, meaning the top 20% of your portfolio of your investments are going to yield 80% of your returns. So you're going to have all these negative zeros. You'll have a few that make a little money, and then you'll have a few that'll knock it out. That's venture capital. Not everyone is set up for that. A lot of people are like, wait, that seems ridiculous.
Yes.
So it's not for everyone. It's a different style.
Yeah, I see.
So what kind of a startup or venture you invested, like you remembered the most for like in this year? Maybe can you please tell us like an example? What did they do or what do they do? Right
Yes. I have a lot, and it's almost when people ask these questions, like you don't want to choose between your children, right?
Okay,
like,
so you have a lot of...
No, but I'll tell you one that I think is I feel just there's a certain level of interest and passion around. All of them, of course, I do, but there's one which is a founder in Denver. I think actually I spoke with him. So this founder was an investor like me, was a partner at Kleiner Perkins. Then after that, he started an ag tech business, grew to really good success.
What tech?
Ag tech, agriculture tech.
Okay.
Software company, but for agriculture.
Okay.
Did that really well, made a lot of money. Throughout that time, he actually has 2 kids. One of them who is fully, deep on the spectrum of autism.
Oh.
And he actually throughout that time, he invested 15 million of his own capital.
Asset told me about
Asset told you about it?
Because our second son has autism.
So let me tell you why I got so interested. So throughout this time, he invested 15 million of his own company, of his own money. This guy is very wealthy.
Yes.
And he didn't just sit and just enjoy his money and just find his kid. He looked at all the struggles he was going through his kid on like finding the right therapist, finding the right BCBAs, RBT, etc. He's like, no, this doesn't make sense. This could be better. So he went ahead and not only invested money into various startups, then he said, you know what, I'm going to do it my own way. He started a company, and they're using next generation AI for both video and audio to be able to track and like more precisely diagnose a child. Hey, will this child need speech language earlier? When?
Wow.
What's the verbal, nonverbal cues of this child? So then you can begin to phenotype, not just like, okay, this person. If it's
Like
a spectrum, tailored, personalized therapy.
Wow.
And in the United States, you know, the average child with autism can cost $30,000 to $40,000 per year, right? And that is, and a lot of it is very inefficient.
Yes.
And not done right.
Yes.
I think I'm sure you.
Yeah, I know about this. So yeah, talking about speaking about healthcare technology. Before we started recording our podcast, you mentioned that Theranos, like a famous company of Elizabeth Holmes, they tried to get funding through.
Yes. So they got a lot of funding from other people. And
But can you please tell us? It's like
sure.
really interesting.
Yeah. So you know, for the
Who doesn't know yet?
For context for the group.
Yeah.
There was a very compelling young founder. She was a student at Stanford. I forget, was she a dropout?
She dropped out.
A dropout, yeah. So, and she managed to, she had a moonshot idea. And the moonshot idea is something that people are very excited about. With one drop of blood, you can measure a lot of of health issues. And overall, so that was the idea. And she went ahead, you know, raising capital for it. Very, very good. Very classic venture capital, all good. She convinced a lot of people to invest capital. Again, everything clean with this story up to now, right? But then all of a sudden, then she started getting people like Henry Kissinger, or like these government people, politicians. And you're like, okay, why? But it's okay. She kept raising money, and then it essentially became that she started to misrepresent the performance of the tests, right? And it all came down. It was at one point the company was valued at, I believe, $9 billion.
$9 billion. I remember that. People are calling her the second Steve Jobs or something.
Yeah, she had this like Steve Jobs and everything. And I remember when they pitched to us, we got it, and we're like, and people were like.
So you were sitting like in one room, like she was.
Oh, I was not in that room.
Oh, okay.
I was not in that room, so I did not meet her in person. But I remember, but she did pitch one of my members of the team.
Okay, yeah.
They brought and they basically said, they're like, hey, this round is coming together. We're raising this amount. Let us know if you're in or out. We're like, well, thank you, but we want to see your deck. We want to see material. They're like, no, the round is coming. So if you want to enter, I'm like, so. Interestingly, and this is the big picture here, what I'll say for the audience is Silicon Valley and venture capital can sometimes, one flaw we have is we can sometimes fall into hype cycles. Right?
Yeah.
This was a classic case of hype cycle. Extraordinary founder that looks like Steve Jobs, talks really smart, you know, everything charismatic about her. Her investors are top notch. Why wouldn't you be like, yeah, sure, let's go. I'll join this. The vision makes sense. Like ultimately, what's funny now, you know, 10 years after this debacle, we are getting close to that promised land.
Truly?
Oh my God.
So in fact, she could have gotten there. She just misrepresented. And so she overdid it. And that was the she started to sell it. So in some ways, like the vision, maybe she had the right intention, but eventually she began. But
Lightspeed Ventures Partnership, they didn't invest.
No, we did not. But this was in my prior role, and they also did not invest.
Okay.
That's interesting. Okay, before the Lightspeed, I just took a look on your LinkedIn page, and you've been already as is it an investor role, or your interest started from your gap year after the. Was it after the high school or bachelor?
Undergrad.
After undergrad. Yeah. So you decided to take a gap year.
Yes.
And it turns to 3 years of working and experimenting, and you also found out that the investment is your maybe right way for you. Yeah. So could you say or tell more about the gap year opportunity when you just reconsidered everything and you just decided what is the right way for you, and then later on by how you gained this experience by working in a different company?
Oh, for sure. So right after undergrad, I thought I would take a gap year. Initially, I was thinking do research because you want to get into medical school. But I already did enough research, so I thought maybe I'll try something else. All my friends were doing consulting, so I went and joined PwC.
Yeah.
First, did it, and I really didn't like it. I was like a cog in the machine, right? It was just like I was one little soldier in a big army. I learned a lot, so I actually like my colleagues, and they're awesome. But the machine was too much. And then serendipitously, I got this email saying, "Hey, this doctor investor at a fund wants an apprentice for the summer." I said, "Okay, let me do that." So I just quit. This was an unpaid job. I went there and started working, and I really liked it. But then my savings started to go down.
Yeah.
And I called my my father and mother and said, "Mom, Dad, like I'm running out of money. What should I?" They said, "Hey, are you learning a lot? Do you think it's good?" It's like it'll keep you steady as long as you can. And I said, "Okay." I did it for a couple more months. I'm like, "Mom, I can't just I'm out of money. That's it." And then I actually went to one of my Stanford professors and I said, "Hey, here's my situation. I really like this job, but I can't work for free." And then he said, "Oh, Galym, I have a fund." And I said, "Oh, good. Can I work at your fund?" And he's like, "No. Actually, I'm not going to hire you because it's a small fund." And I was like, "Oh, great. Well, what's the point of it?" And he said, "Well, I'm going to call your boss at your current fund and ask about you. I'm going to say, hey, this guy named Galym, he's such a good risk. Can you tell him more about? He's just really, really good." And I was like, "Oh, wow, that would be awesome." But funny enough, I actually, that never ended up happening. I asked my firm, I said, "Hey, like, could you hire me full time? If not, could you at least be my reference for the next?" And then a week later, they hired. So sometimes I find important things like you have to ask. In the United States, people, if you ask enough times, people help. You do it in a way that's not derogatory or anything. You have to, in the way my motto is, give 3 times and ask once for a take. So give them more things, give them more insights, give them connection, and then ask. Yes, I'd like some help here, and then you'd be surprised how people will help.
I think maybe by being woman who was raised in Kazakhstan in the East culture, sometimes we even forgot to ask or forgot to summarize our work and present it and saying that, "Oh, we did this and that," and just showing our results. So yeah, maybe it's a thing that we have to work on our side. And you later.
I think to your point on that point, the way sometimes when you feel like I felt this, I'm not a woman, but Eastern culture, you'll be a little more humble. I felt that to some too, but then you have to think like, okay, in the United States, there's your other people aren't playing by the same mindset. And so then I had to think, okay, I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for my Imanbayev family. I'm doing this for my people generally, Kazakh. Kazakh. So like you do that and you're like, that kind of empowers you to be like, I cannot be, like you can be humble, but you can be action oriented. Then you kind of feel almost empowered that like, okay, I need to speak up. I need to do this. I need to advocate for myself. So sometimes like, if you just think about it yourself, yes, stay humble. But if you think you're representing others, that gives you, you can be the Tomics.
Oh, wow.
Like that.
Good advice. Overall, what other advices you would give to the young people who's interested in healthcare, maybe also has some abilities in business and maybe were considering that there might be some hybrid jobs that you found out. So it's a great path that you're showing that it exists to the other young people who might be interested in such direction.
Yeah, so I think, the one thing I think, whether if they are in high school or undergrad or whatever position they are in, keep doing this dual track. Maintain both options. Do the economics courses, do the medical courses, or this transcends to other things, engineering or policy, whatever. Like you can do several topics at once. I used to tell my father, I'm like, there's so much work and everything in college, and I don't know if my dad is right about this or not, but I will accept his advice. He said, Galym, think of when you're switching subjects, you should feel like your brain is resting on one subject. One subject rests and you switch to another. And I don't know, I just believe them and it somehow helps. I don't know if it's like physiologically actually true, but I was like, okay, I will believe you for the sake of my own sanity. And so I think I feel like you have to maintain kind of this, like they say, like Renaissance man potential. You don't have to do everything. Like, the Renaissance men could be politicians. They could be doctors. They could be orators and they could do everything. Why limit ourselves? Now, so I would, and that's one thing I think one thing if there's people viewing like how do you get to American colleges and everything, some of the best colleges are looking for kind of this like Renaissance man, Renaissance woman characteristics. Can you excel academically? Okay, yes, but can you show leadership capability? Can you show a creative art? Can you show that you are either a musical performer or you're a drawer, or can you show that you also have a heart? So you do community service. And so that's the kind of thing that I would, if you're in high school, college, you do that. Once you get past that, I think the advice would be to work with someone that you're just going to have high iteration learning. So
what do you mean high iteration?
High iteration, basically, when I was advised Lightspeed, or there were some other funds, they said, go to a fund where you're going to do the most amount of deals. So you have more opportunities to learn.
Okay.
And the same thing, if someone were to do it, like go to a startup where the role will be all kind of mixed, but because you're going to be asked to do so many things, you're just naturally going to learn. Or go to a big company, learn there for a few years, and then like switch around. But don't just be a company man. And I also think just starting startup right away, for some people it's great, for some people it's not. You need you need to understand what greatness looks like, so then you can emulate it a little bit.
I just wanted to ask a question about how to get to American colleges and top universities, because we found out that our viewers in Kazakhstan are mostly interested in that, how to get to the American colleges, top universities. So you are a Stanford man, like 10 years, or how many years you've spent it? So you told us like what to do to get into the college, what else, like where should they aim?
Yeah, so again, my mom would be a very good resource. She put my older brother to Johns Hopkins, me to Stanford, little brother to Stanford, and
she's just such an inspiration.
She's got a plan, and I think what she did really well with us is she let us be who we are. So like we pursued our interests, but she also has them both, me and my mom and my father. My father would say, look, a dream is a dream, but a dream can't be actioned without a plan, and then a plan is followed by action. So there's these 3-step thing. You want to go to Stanford? Well, put a plan together. What does it take? Work backwards.
Yes.
And so we started, frankly, like my mom had like pretty much, we had a plan like after 8th grade, it was like, here's what we're doing. Every year, every summer, long-term vision of what you need to accomplish. So by the time you're applying, you're a complete package. And you don't want to there's a concept, helicopter parenting, where tiger mother.
Yes.
There's a little tiger mother I think is healthy, which is fine, but
not too much.
Yeah, but too much is not good, because the mental health, people get stressed out. It's also not good. And at the end of the day, the best getting into the top college is, I would say, less important than the work ethic and this thing that you instill. Get to a good college. And then after that, excel. So it's like there are people from Stanford who immediately kind of slow down. And there's people from schools that are not as prestigious by name that excel. So like, it's not the end of the world. But for the sake of getting into a good school, I think, yes, you have to have, outside of academics, you need to demonstrate that you're physically active. I think it actually helps. Creative arts, leadership, community service. And then I would say kind of like, and there needs to be a consistent narrative that is authentic to you. So like my little brother, he actually wrote a book, but the book was with fantastical creatures that he also illustrated.
When he was like a student at school?
When he was in high school. It took him a long time. It took him 2 years to write it. But my mom, like, I remember weekends, and she just doesn't want, he's got all this. And my mom's like, every weekend, 1 more page. Wow. Just every weekend, 1 or 2 pages. That's it. Don't do crazy. Just, and he did it. And then but this book was about a space dwarf and a human going and solving math problems together. and because he was always into kind of the math and technical things, and then he also did robotics. So there was like a consistent theme. But then he also went into wrestling. He was a wrestler for the school. He won division titles. So he's a very like strong. And then
very strong application. Okay.
So you have to do these things. But I think if you start early, you can do it naturally without too many tears. And then.
Mm-hmm. That's so great that you as a kid showed your intention, and your parents and especially your mother helped you keep consistent to achieving some like points to apply for the university.
Thing is like brothers. My brothers are extremely critical. My older brother, we call him the tank, because he in the front, he's just like the first to blaze through. A lot of what he did, we learned. For him, it was no one knew how to apply to colleges. They didn't know applications. He did it all. He took his learnings, passed it to me. I took my learnings, passed it to Danya. And so I'm the middle child. And there's another, I think, a Kazakh friend that basically goes by Inisi Bardın.
Tınısı var,
Ağası
bardın, жағасы бар. Yeah.
And I feel right in the middle. My little brother is my source of peace, and I just feel, he is my, and then my older brother is, жағасы, he protects me.
Yeah.
And that I feel that, and so yeah, familial ties. That's another thing. Is like whenever we would fight or something like that, I was like, you don't have anyone in America besides each other. So remember that, and so we would, yeah.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. But overall, there must be days when balancing everything feels overwhelming, because you have a family, you have a kid now, and you're also hustling at the work. What helps you recharge and reconnect with yourself?
Yeah, I mean, one, I'll say my wife is superhuman as well. I just feel such peace and full confidence in her. She also went to Stanford, and I just know that when I leave home, everything is under control. Ayla, my daughter, is doing great. My mother-in-law, who lives with us, is doing well. If that's a certain piece that's hard to sometimes get. If you feel like, oh, what's happening? She got it. And that's huge. And then I would say the other thing is, faith, Islam. I try to pray 5 times a day. And if every time you pray, it's like a meditation moment. And when you say Allahu Akbar, it means, oftentimes people translate it as, Bog Vilik, or God is great. But if you look, when I talk to my imam, he describes Allahu Akbar as actually more like God is greater. It's not just God is great, it's greater. And then you think, greater than what? God is greater than your current struggle. God is greater than the stupid work thing that made you disappoint. Or God is greater that you got delayed and now all of a sudden you're going to have to stay up all night to work this thing. Allahu Akbar. Yeah, at the end of the day, regardless of what's happening, Allahu Akbar. And you do that 5 times a day, it has a certain peace, right? And so I think that is my mental health. That's my mental health hack, as they say. And
one more interesting point. On your previous podcast with Bios, you were mentioning that you, as a hobby, you're interested in horseback archery. So could you say it about more now? Because it's been 2 years already.
I'm just trying to maintain it. So I'm not very good at it, but I am channeling this actually to my daughter. So we live in kind of a rural part. So she's right now taking horseback lessons, bareback. So not even a saddle, just straight on bareback. Wow. It's an American style.
Isn't it dangerous now?
It's a little bit dangerous, but we do it in a good teacher. Okay. And I think it helps though the child feel the horse and be more stable. They say it's more natural. And I think and it's funny. I look at them and I remember the American style of horseback riding is a little different than Kazakh. I remember when I was in Aul, it was different. So there's even how you hold in this. So I'm like, well, I'm not gonna teach her Kazakh horseback. So she's gonna be an American cowgirl with Kazakh style horseback archery. So she'll be a real mix. but she's doing that, and then on the side also we're doing archery lessons too. We have in my backyard we put our target practice.
Wow.
She's got a bow and arrow, and so I just hope she doesn't shoot me one of these days.
Silly question. Has she tried horse meat or not?
No, I don't know where to get it.
Oh, okay. So,
That's a good question.
but was the biggest thing I missed most here, it was horse meat.
Really?
Yeah.
I forgot the taste. I don't even know the taste.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
very sad.
It's totally different, right? Yeah, you cannot compare it, you cannot remake it over here. So yeah, it's different. Overall, we were just saying that the success for us looks like your journey. But I'm just interested, what does the success mean to you? How do you see it, both professionally and personally?
So, I mean, first, look, success has many different forms. Look at what you are both doing. This is incredible. What you're doing, at one of the top tech companies, you taking, all your talents that you had from Kazakhstan and now employing this in this way that people can hear and raising children while supporting a set who's doing incredible work. I mean, this is success.
Okay.
So I
Thank
want
you.
you to feel that. I mean, it's really, it's impressive. And it's not, I mean, I know what my parents went through. You're going through a part of it. So I can't empathize totally, but I kind of feel it. So that's one. There's many success. And there's a lot of other interesting, great founders here. Dosran, like all these guys are pushing and that's success right now, I think. Even if it doesn't have an outcome quite yet, that learning is the success. I think for me, when you look at kind of Imam Ghazali, as he would write, is everyone is kind of judged by what they've given. So Allah gave me wonderful parents, brothers. I live here, opportunities. So am I doing the best I can? Sometimes I feel like I don't. There are sometimes, good Kazakh founders out there that call and I spend a little bit of time, but I can't follow up with everyone. Or I wish I stayed even closer with my cousins. I have cousins that live here in the United States, a few, and I have a lot in Kazakhstan. I wish I did more. So I think success to me looks like, given what you've been blessed with by the Creator, what kind of impact have you been able to have? If you've been blessed with a kind of tighter set, maybe you're gonna have more success because you took care of just your family. But I feel like I have to do more. I feel this worry over my head that Allah has blessed me with this, and if I don't do this, like, I will be judged. We will all be judged for how much He has given and what we can do. So, and if you look at it in this relative way, I hope everyone then can feel in their own way, what can you do? If you've got great opportunity, great expectation. If you don't have a lot of opportunity, don't feel like you're not successful if you're not achieving. Every step of the way is a process.
Yeah, again, impressive.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ғалым. Do you have any questions?
I mean, no. It's overall was so good to at least listen all your responses and answers. Yeah, thanks overall. It was for me, it was beautiful podcast.
Yeah, I like it a lot. And so I hope our guests will be the same level as you, starting from season 2.
Oh, no, it's everyone.
And hopefully, maybe in the future, we'll meet again here, and maybe you will tell us more
Follow-ups.
follow-ups.
Maybe there will be some interesting...
Yeah, because life doesn't end at Lightspeed Ventures partnership, I think. I believe in 5-10 years, we will see another great success story. So thank you for coming.
Inshallah. Thank you so much, for the great questions, for investing the time, and for the audience, thank you again. I apologize. I couldn't say it in Kazakh, but I hope some of the translations was caught, and wishing the best for everyone.
Ғалымға қандай да бір пікірлеріңізді, сұрақтарыңызды осы видеоның астына қалдырып кетіңіздер. Ол өзі жауап беруге тырысады. Және біздің қазақ тіліндегі сапалы контентті қолдау үшін осы видеоға лайк басып, жазылып, және басқалармен бөліссеңіз, бізге кішкене көмек болар еді. Рахмет.
Көп рахмет.